Okay.
We're good.
Sweet.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Lou.
So this week we're talking about math teaching strategies and lesson plans in educational technology. Super interesting, I know. So, who's first? Roxy, are you first? You want to share?
Yeah, are we sharing the individual ones or just what we thought?
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Sorry. I'm like looking at last week's. Okay, so I guess we could do number 2 first. So we need to discuss what types of instructional strategies were used in our math lesson plans.
Well, again, they use direct instruction, so that I do, we do, you do.
Yeah, mine had that too.
Yep.
Mine had a lot of like, let's do this as a class and then work in peer work. So I think a lot of the whole lesson was them working together as a class more than the U time, which was really nice because it's a math class and sometimes it's easier to work as a group rather than as in pairs because then you're only bouncing ideas off one person. So I found that to be really interesting.
Yeah, mine had a lot of visualization again this time. And so
Yeah.
it made it easier for them too.
Visualization and then
A lot of exit tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mine had that
definitely.
too.
so like you would say more of a formal assessment, right? Checking for
Yeah, I would say that would be.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it might be more informal assessment because they're not necessarily getting graded for the exit ticket.
on yours. You weren't.
It's kind of just to check their understanding, I guess.
I didn't know
Yeah.
because on mine, I couldn't tell if like they were getting graded or not. Because sometimes teachers check for understanding. Like I had a class last semester that would actually grade you on your tickets out. So it's
Oh, really?
kind of cool. So yeah, we'll just mark it as informal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've just never had it graded thing.
You.
No.
Also, a lot of like templates. Like
Yeah, there is a ton. In mine, it was she like half filled it out, I guess. It was weird.
So what could we organize that as? What was yours last week, Shay?
Graphic organization.
Semantic mapping.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think we could use something in that, like, could we call it
And
that?
like graphic organizers. I don't know. Graphic
Yeah,
organizers.
I think so.
I think it would
Graphic
be.
organizers probably.
Okay.
Mine had a lot of partner work too.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine too. Partner.
And a lot of that mine had a lot of individual stuff too. So when they were talking to their partner, the teacher was walking around and kind of doing that listening and talking too.
Yeah, mine was a lot of like classwork, like Lizzie's too. It was like everything together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So currently we have direct instruction, so that I do, you do, and then visualization. So anything with like graphs, drawings, pictures, arrays, that sort of stuff. And then exit tickets. We said that was more of an informal assessment. Graphic organizers, including like templates, things that the kids could follow along with. And that could also be part of the UDL too, because she's giving them multiple means of representation. So that was just came up. But and then lots of peer work. Do you guys want to add anything else to it?
I think that's all I could think of, but
Pretty covers
Yeah,
it.
not right now.
Yeah, we could always come back to it. So what type of educational technology did they use in this?
Interactive whiteboard again.
mine had a lot of like graphing softwares
Mm.
and like different things like Excel. I don't know, things like that.
Okay.
Mine had like a lot of online visualization, so like a number line bar, fraction bars on, and they were all online.
Visualization, online,
Yeah.
online deal. That's what I'll just say.
Mine used like calculators. That's easy.
Yeah.
Mine had an interactive applet.
Oh yeah, mine had that too. I didn't know what it was. So.
Yeah, it took me forever to figure it out.
Applet.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know what it is.
Yeah, like that.
Okay, I spelled it right.
Yeah.
You did.
Okay. Like I don't know if I spelled it right.
It's weird.
What's
I
an
just
applet?
Mine had this. I don't know if I'm saying this right. GeoGebra. I don't know how to say it, but basically, it's like a program where the students can like go on. Well, what I am perceiving from the lesson is that they can go on and like make shapes, and it's used with the interactive whiteboard, but they're just making and cutting shapes and stuff. So mine did a lot of work with decomposing, and I guess that's what that program is good for.
yeah.
Lots of different modeling,
Yeah.
like different types of manipulatives. I think that's kind of considered technology, something you're using.
Yeah, I saw that.
Wait,
online.
hold on one sec. Make sure that I'm like clearly understanding. So you're saying different models?
Yeah, so like the manipulatives that kids use, like the Unifix cubes and all of the names. just
Even
went
like
out the
paper
window.
squares. I had
Yeah.
one.
They use like just those things, like if they need to count them or
Unifix. Did I spell it wrong? Yep, I totally did.
yeah, right there.
And different. So I'm just gonna kind of put in parentheses different means of
Modeling.
modeling. Yes, modeling.
Yeah.
I'm taking modeling. Whoever said modeling. Okay. Mine also did computers. I don't know if you guys saw that I put that on there.
Yeah.
But she had them like go and do peer work with the computers using that like program. Any others?
I think that's it.
That's good, yeah.
Okay. Okay, what UDL principles did you observe? So multiple means, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
A lot of so that she presented multiple means of representation, obviously, but then she made sure that those means were, or those representations were available when it came to the activity and task part. So
Yeah.
when they were working by themselves, she could tell that one student was having a hard time understanding fractions in one of my lesson. And so she had her student go to the computer and use whole numbers on a fraction bar.
They did
So
that
then
on mine too.
he visually, and it made sense to him, and he was able to do more complicated ones from there on out because she took the time and made it more independent and showed him the means to make him
It's
successful.
like
Yeah.
less distractions.
Yeah.
With kind of going along with that, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. My teacher did a lot of like, okay, well, why did you do that? I mean, is there other ways to do it? And kind of just making the kids think, like, what other ways can we solve this problem? There isn't just one way, there's multiple ways. So just kind of, I don't know if this would necessarily count as principle of it, but I just thought that was interesting. Just that she's constantly asking the questions to kids to keep them like thinking about having other ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that would necessarily like count.
I think it does.
Also, I think it's a really good way to show that they're expressing what she wants or what the teacher wants. So making sure that that assessment is there to know that next time, okay, so they didn't necessarily get this part of a lesson, so I need to expand and we really need to focus in on that. And that gives her or the teacher multiple ways of figuring out different representations that they can use just for that one part that they didn't get in the lesson that time, but the next time we can focus on it. So they really understand it.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. I like thought of something and then I totally lost it when I was listening. Never mind.
I do that all.
Never mind. Okay. I feel like I might have something else to, apply there, but I'm not. I don't know. Once maybe we talk about our lesson plans, I might think of something else that we could add.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Individual? Yeah.
Okay, I'll start. So mine was the understanding problems. And all right, so basically what I got from it was just like to learn how to understand problems, you have to like reread it a lot. And then it said like annotating words and numbers, and then again, visualizing the situation. And you could use the visualizations to like create diagrams like for the math problems and assessing reasonable solutions. And so it like key ways to understand the problem was like understand the context of like the situation of the problem you're trying to learn. It helps a lot. And develop a way to organize how to like come up with a strategy for the problem. And so the lesson that I had, it was, I don't know, it was kind of weird, but it was basically like the teacher was just going around, it was like a whole like class activity, but kind of like independent. And so the teacher gave the students like strategies and models and like all of the manipulatives. And basically it was just giving them prompting questions, like to give them time to understand and react how it would work. And she would have them present the directions or the explanations in their own words, and then like compare and contrast with their peers how they got the problem. And they also had this thing called a process chart, and like she made it, and so she had like the kids like check it off like when they were going through to like show their progress. And they also had this like gallery walk thing, which was like showing everyone how like showing the students how the other students use their models and manipulatives. And she was basically just showing them how to learn off their mistakes. And so the technology that was used was definitely the interactive whiteboard, because that's like where most of the graphs and stuff were. And then the math drawing tools, calculators, manipulatives, like little blocks, and 3D design software. And so yeah, that was that one.
Sweet. I was gonna say that something that I kind of struggle with is problem solving. So it's kind of unique to kind of hear some of the things that you said, because I'm like, oh, that would have probably helped.
Yeah, I feel like
I
I
need to
stressed
use
myself
that.
out.
Yeah, I've done the gallery walks before. I'm not a fan of them, but I can see how they can help too.
I'm like scared.
Wait, why aren't you a fan of it?
Because I have some really bad experiences with them.
Oh,
I was
Yeah.
a paraprofessional for a long time, and we had to do these para academy meetings. And every time after every meeting, we would have to do these gallery walks, and they just
They're
worse, and they really weren't as productive. Probably should have been. So I just have really bad negative connotations with gallery walks.
That's funny. Well, hopefully we can work on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe if it was a good experience, I would understand why we do that.
Okay.
All right, Sammy, you?
All right. So my strategy was thinking aloud, and we kind of talked about this last time about how talking really helps with that understanding. And so that's pretty much what that strategy is talking step by step what you're doing, and explaining what, so you're not just like, so if you're making a sandwich, I don't know why this example just came to my head. you're going to be like, well, I took the bread out. Well, why did you take the bread out? You have to explain step by step what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think in math, it's really important that we do that, because when people ask me, well, why did you multiply? I don't know. That's just what I do. And so I thought it was a really cool strategy to use, because I don't always necessarily know how to explain what I'm doing with my math. And in the lesson plan, obviously the first thing that she did was explain what she was doing. But I thought it was interesting. Well, because they already knew what thinking aloud was, so they had already known the explanation. So they had done it before. This isn't their first time with it in the classroom. But the teacher took one question off of the quiz that they had already done, and everybody had gotten it wrong. So she took that one question and then brought it in front of the class and said, okay, now we're going to figure out why we all got this wrong and explain it. And we're going to use our thinking aloud strategy. I already knew what that was, because she had already previously explained it. And then she had one student wrote the problem on the board and had one student come up and explain step by step what he was doing. When he got mixed up or something, she would ask guiding questions, which I think is really important, because sometimes, from my own personal experiences as a teacher, sometimes you just want to tell them what they need to do, and instead of asking those guiding questions. So I thought it was really important that she asked those questions to help him figure it out. And finally he got there to the end, and so then she kind of sent everybody on their own to do more as partnerships, to do more questions and problems, but to keep using this thinking aloud strategy so that they could go step by step. And so she was walking around and talking and listening to them talk to each other. And so when she would stop at one group and ask them, well, wait, why did you do it this way? Then they would have to explain it to her. And then she got to one that I had already kind of talked about, and he was really struggling with those fractions. So she made him use whole numbers and let him use that online visual representation with the fraction bars. And that really helped him visualize it. He understood it. And then she said, okay, now you know how to use whole numbers. Now we're just going to add fractions to it. And he was able to understand. And then at the end, she did that exit ticket, and she looked through it, and what they had gotten wrong on the quiz, they finally understood it through what they had just done, through that thinking aloud strategy. And so she knew that the next time she didn't have to go over that part of the lesson anymore, and she could move on. And so technologies that she used was the interactive whiteboard, the online versions of the quizzes, the number lines, and the fraction bars. So yeah, I thought it was a really cool strategy. I really liked it.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
I always had a hard time like thinking aloud and doing that stuff, because I would like the same thing you said, like when they would ask me why I use multiplication, like I just did, you know?
Yeah.
So I think more of that would have helped me a lot when I was younger.
Yeah, same.
Me too. And I'm kind of doing it in my Math 157 class, or they're like, because you have to learn how to teach it. So you have to explain what you're doing, and you're like, okay, now I really have to break this down step by step. So this might actually help me a lot.
Well, I thought your lesson did a good job of just like prompting her kids, you know, like, okay, well, if you don't, there's other ways, you know, like I can explain this some other way by using something else that you might like more, you know. So I thought that was a good way.
Yeah.
Because obviously the kid wasn't understanding. So she like reached out and identified that, and then did something about it. So I liked that.
Yeah, and it was nice that she was flexible too. I think that's a huge part of being a teacher, is you have to be flexible, because not all your kids are going to understand one way. So.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing right now, though, with what is it called? Common Core? What's it called?
Yeah.
So like, it's obviously it's a bit of a stretch for us, because when we went to school, we learned what, one way, two ways. Now we're learning like 7 different ways to teach kids these concepts.
Yeah.
Not only is it hard for us, but it's hard for us to teach them. So it's a good learning experience, because they teach us something that we didn't know too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
I value that. I think that's super cool.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, who's next?
Me. Okay, so mine was organizing, and it basically just said how they use multiple like representations to help kids like kind of control what they're learning and what they're looking at, and it helps them detect and understand the patterns of information presented to them a little bit better. They use interactive whiteboards, regular whiteboards, calculators, factorize applets. So that was just like a computer program that they could type into the little tablets that they had, and it would just tell them if it was like a factor pair or not. And then towards the end, the kids that like were excelling and stuff, she introduced the factor tree to them. And it was a guy. He introduced it. And so he like begins by reviewing the terms factor and factor pair, because that's what they were going over. And he gives all the kids the number 10 and asks them to write all the factors of 10 on their whiteboards and hold it up when they were done. And so all the kids got that one because 10's an easy number. And then he asks them to do the same thing for 48. But 48's a bigger number with a lot more factors and factor pairs. And so a lot of the kids got like the basic ones, but they would forget like most of the middle ones, and they all forgot 1 and 48 as a factor pair. And so he kind of just said like, okay, well, what can we do to get this stuff under control? And all the kids were like, well, like it's just kind of a mess. So he was like, right, we need to organize it. And so he brought up a factor rainbow, which is something I had never like seen before. So he put 1 here and 48 here and drew a big arc over the top of them. And like the middle was just a big gap. And so then he asks the kids, okay, what's another factor? And they all said 2. And so he put 2 next to 1, and then he had the kids figure out like what 2's pair was, which was 24. And he drew an arc under the bigger one. And after that, he continued to fill in like the rest of the middle with the kids' help. And they all got down to 6 and 8. And the kids were like, okay, well, the rainbow's full. Are we done? And he said, I don't know. Are we done? And they all decided that 5 wasn't a factor and 7 wasn't a factor. And so that's why they connected the 6 and the 8, and everything else was done already. And then he gave them their little tablet so that they could enter the pairs as they went through the lesson, so that they all knew that, yes, like our thinking is right. It was a good factor pair. And they finished working. They had like 5 or 6 to do on their own. That was part of their homework. And so they all finished working on that and did their homework while him and the student teacher were like walking around kind of informally assessing them, making sure they all understood. And then the kids that finished early, they all went to a group with the student teacher, and they started working on factor trees and kind of introduced factor trees. And then that was the end of the lesson. So pretty cool.
I added tablets. Sorry, I just want to let you know, tablets to technology. And then
Cool.
also to the EDL, I just thought maybe this could be something, but constantly reviewing concepts that the students already know. To like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, that's a big
always
thing.
good for everyone to review, because there's always that one kid that didn't get it the last 5
Yep.
times we went over it, and maybe it's that 5th time that's, oh, I got it. So I think that could be a principle. Like, we're constantly reviewing things. So I added it to it, but if anyone,
Okay.
Yep. That's
I
good.
thought that rainbow was super cool. I've never heard of that either.
Yeah, I had no idea. So I was like kind of confused by what they were like, because I just kind of scrolled through it the other day and I just saw like a rainbow looking thing and I was like, oh, you know, whatever. And then finally when I went back today and looked at it, like that would have helped me so much when I was little, just because it like organizes them, puts them all in order for you. And it like, I don't know, it's kind of fun to make a rainbow out of it too, you know, keeps them interested.
did they use
Well, and I
colors?
think it's
Yeah.
interesting. Sorry, that how all of these, you have so many different representations that sometimes it's overwhelming as a teacher to know all of them. But then teaching these kids all these different ways to learn, when they are in our shoes and are going to college, their notes and their understanding is going to be so much deeper than where we were at, because we didn't get that super deep knowledge that they're going to get with that extra learning the 7 different ways how to do things and that explaining and all of these different studies on how to teach. So I just think that that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I wish I learned more about organizing. I feel like it would have helped me a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Same.
Yeah, now because I'm figuring it out. Once I make
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but sometimes it's hard to break your habits, man.
Oh, it is.
I agree.
I'm so disorganized.
for real, Sammy still doesn't like walkarounds.
Gallery walks.
They're terrible.
See? Break your habit, man. Okay. So my turn, yeah?
Yes.
All right, so I had visual representations. It, to me, you know, like as I took away from it, it is a powerful way for students to access abstract math ideas. So it really helps break apart and give students visuals and images so they can make connections and see like a picture and then take that knowledge from the graph and apply it to the question that's being asked. So it kind of just takes it apart into step-by-step kind of thing. I also read that it was super beneficial if students developed this skill earlier, which I thought was really interesting, because I don't remember learning, you know, this at a young age. I feel like I developed it more as I got older. So it's interesting that they're saying it's such a key component when you're younger because it can really help you excel as a student and break apart those super abstract concepts. So ways that it said that students can use this visual representation is by using number lines, arrays, pictures, and then graphs. And then kind of just something that I took away just because I liked it was how it could help the students. It said to support students moving from informal to formal representations. So I thought that was interesting because we're constantly starting at that informal and then progressing up to formal. So kind of assessing their knowledge over a period of time. So that is my grasp on it. And then my lesson plan was a math classroom, obviously. And they have previously learned how to decompose polygons. And so she introduces the class by saying, okay, well, you already know how to do this. So we're going to start out by doing that, which she's reviewing it, kind of like that UDL sort of thing. She's constantly reviewing these ideas. So she already has 2 polygons up on the board with the program that they use, the GeoGebra. I don't know how to say it. And then she calls on 2 students to go up and she's like, okay, you guys need to decompose this polygon in 2 different ways. So make sure you're not doing the same thing. And then after they finish, she was just like, okay, well, are there other ways? You know, like, and also like, why did you divide it that way? So the first kid was like, well, I knew how the what's it called? The formula for a triangle and a pentagon. So that's how I knew I could figure out how to decompose it. And then David said, well, I know I saw 3 triangles out of it, so I made 3 triangles. So then she prompts the kids and kind of just says, well, are there other ways that we can do this? So she pulls up a few more polygons and that are still the shape of a pentagon, and they come up with like 4 or 5 more ways. And they just talk about how like these work and how there's more ways to do it, which I kind of liked. And then she kind of brought in this real world situation for the students to kind of apply it to not just math, but to think about it in a sense of art. So she pulls up this art piece done by like Sol Lewitt, I think that was his name. And it was like a 3D sort of shape. So there's a triangle in the middle. The whole like piece was a rectangle, but it was kind of like a Illuminati in the middle. So it kind of was a little trippy. So she was like explaining to the kids, you know, that this figure has shapes like basically what we're decomposing when we decompose our polygons and stuff like that. So she's like, so we're going to try and make our own, kind of like this artist did. So she pulls up a rectangle with a huge triangle in the middle that divides it by the tip of it. And she's like, divides it up into like the 3 pieces to kind of get the kids started. And then she explains to the kids what she wants them to do next. And she's like, okay, so you have a rectangle, triangles, and a pentagon. And you need to fit these shapes in those triangles and figure out what the actual, like the area of it is by using these shapes. And so she kind of lets the kids off, and then they have like a little graph they fill out as like each time they use a shape, and then they say what shape they used, and then what the base was, what the area was, and then they take the total of it. So they're constantly writing down this. And as the kids are working on this, it's through a computer program. So she can kind of walk around and do a sense of an informal assessment on them, making sure that they're understanding, helping the kids when they get stuck. And with that, there was actually a group of kids that were really struggling, and they couldn't figure out how to get started. So they had a completely blank triangle. So she went over to them and kind of was like, okay, well, you have something started there. Now let's move forward. And she was just prompting them. And finally, like the sparks went, oh, I got it. And the partners started working together and filling in the circle or the triangle. So I thought it was really empowering that they were working together, kind of feeding off each other when she was only prompting them. And then all the kids just talked about what the area should have been. So they came back as a class and just talked about what went well, what didn't go well, which were the easiest ways to decompose it. And then she also did an exit ticket, like you guys said, and just asked the kids to calculate what the area should have been. So even though she discussed it with the students, she wanted to hear individually what they thought it was. And because she never told them the answer. So kind of that informal assessment again. And that was all, yeah. So.
Great. Nice. Awesome.
All right.
Representation. I know we've talked about it a lot, but especially with math, it's such a
Essential thing.
abstract thought. You have to, and I'm such a visual person, so like even when I'm in my head, I can't. Like I have to visually write it out, and then I can do it in my head, but I have to see it. I can't just like saying 14 times 2 and just do it. It's important to learn different types of visual representation, especially when it comes to math and giving them those different representations.
Yes, I agree.
Me too.
Because not only were they like having this like visual representation, but they could literally turn the objects, you know, and like see that they could be turned this way or used that way. So they were kind of having that sense of like a hands-on, because they were seeing it live and doing it. And I think that made a difference in their learning.
Yeah. Well, it makes it less of an equation and more of like a real physical object. Oh, so I'm really trying to figure out how big this is or what I can do with this. It makes it more moldable almost in their hands.
Yes. Okay, so did we by chance think of any other instructional strategies or practices that they use, technology, UDL principles that we could maybe add?
I thought we got all of them.
Yeah, I think we did good.
We're good.
Okay, I'm double checking. So, now on to summaries. Yeah.
Yeah. What did she want like us to say? Individually.
Yeah, just what you kind of took away. Questions you might still have. Anything like that.
All right. Okay, I guess I'll start. All right. What I took away from it is I thought it was cool how they used all these different technologies. One thing in my thing that I saw was, I think Sammy said something about it, but one of the kids didn't really understand like doing it in front of them, like didn't understand the manipulatives, and so she moved him onto a computer, like a computer software, and it like helped them understand more. And then when she brought him back to do it like in physical form, it was easier for him. And so I think that's pretty cool that there's a lot of different technology to use, because if there wasn't, then maybe he'd be really far behind and wouldn't be able to like catch up, stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't want to like agree, because what if I say the same thing? So just get away. Okay, Sammy.
I just think, so for me, I focus a lot more on the reading aspect of teaching, and I think math kind of gets set aside a lot of the times, at least in my own personal experiences being in a school, and because I'm really focusing on the special ed part of things, and so kind of seeing these different strategies and learning different ways to teach kind of gives me a broader horizon of different ways I can teach individuals that need a little bit more specific and more individual time with math or whatever they're struggling with. So it's really nice to hear all these different strategies, and that there are different strategies, and it's not just using your fingers or using manipulatives. Like there's so many software options open. If you have a kid that has motor skill problems and they can't function with using tiny little objects that they can, but they're good on a computer, that there's so many technology options for them to use to be successful. And there's so many different representations. Like that part is really cool for me, going into that special ed world, because sometimes you think it's going to be a lot different, but you're still trying to. So sometimes I think it gets lost in translation, but it's nice to see all these different strategies play out and work, and that I'll be able to take those one day and either accommodate or modify them in order to help some of my students be successful.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
I'm focusing on the special ed too. So the struggling students, the information that it gave us on the struggling students helped me out a lot too, just to see like how a lot of the times you can trust the kids that aren't struggling to like work through it themselves, and then help the ones that are. And then you still have time to go back and help the kids that don't have disabilities or anything like that, you know. I like the fact that, kind of like you said, Sammy, that we can individualize everything too. Like all the kids that do best with manipulatives, like we can have a part of class that does that for them. And then a different part of the lesson can be like using technology and like doing the reading thing. And math was always really hard for me. So seeing, like, I fell behind freshman year of high school. And so like seeing all these different strategies now, like could have totally made a big difference for me in school. So I like the fact that I know like what could have helped me out. So I feel like I'll be able to help the students that I have out a lot better too.
Yeah.
Kind of just going off that. I was speaking with a teacher the other week, and he was kind of just telling me, because I told him like English obviously isn't one of my stronger subjects, and he was like, well, sometimes it's because something isn't your subject, it makes it easier for you to teach, because you can relate and you can say, I struggled with that too. So kind of just feeding off what you guys said, because we had such a different experience, it makes us have that sense of empathy and understanding towards children that obviously are disabled and non-disabled, but just being able to connect and having these different strategies that the kids are open to is super awesome. And like you guys have all said, that these resources are growing immensely to help students, and I really enjoy that. I also like how we share the lesson plans each week.
Same.
Because
Me too.
it is, I don't know, it just makes me excited for my career, and to think like, okay, well, I could remember that and use it in my own classroom one day, or something like that, to make sure my kids are constantly engaged, or how can I make them interested in what I'm teaching, even though it might be a hard topic. So just having multiple means of representation and different ways to do it, like I've said like 30 times. But I really enjoy having lesson plan shares, because you just don't always have the time to read every single one of them. So
Yeah.
it's good to
Well,
hear someone else say it too, because I
Yeah.
would be sometimes completely different than someone else would take away. So I enjoy that also.
I also like hearing the lesson plans too, because sometimes, and this is my first semester at BSU, but it's like going to be a long road before I get my degree, you know, and that ending point is so hard for me to think I have to do all of this before I get there. So these lesson plans kind of make it like, oh my gosh, one day I get to be there, and I just have to keep learning and keep doing all these things. So I'll be a successful teacher and therefore have successful students. So I think it's nice to have that nice moments of one day I'll be there. It'll happen one day.
Yes.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else we'd like to talk about?
I guess, okay, I do have one thing. But Common Core is like so confusing to me still. Like, I don't know. It's so different from the way that I learned. Like, I'm not from Idaho, so even like the Idaho like stuff that they did like when we were all younger was kind of hard for me to understand. Like in a couple of my classes last semester, we talked a lot about what was done before and what's being done now. And so sometimes like the Common Core methods, I'm just like, why? Like, what purpose does it serve? But like you said, sharing the lesson plans and stuff is like kind of helping me get a better grip on everything and helping me understand it a little bit better. So I enjoy the group chat feel of it.
Yes.
Agreed.
Anyone else?
Nope.
Everything.
Okay. I think we've overdone our time. I think we're good.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. I'm stopping it, guys.
Okay.
All right.